here we have, processing speed skills impacting everything. So daily routines, both at home and at school. Academic tasks, we talked about written expression. Well, all content areas expect written expression as a product. Social interactions, we haven't really talked about that yet. And then emotional regulation, which I kind of alluded to, because a lot of students who don't have strong processing speed skills can feel frustration, can feel anxiety, can feel anger, can feel less than good enough, can feel perfectionism. So there are a lot of emotional things, and most of us then handle the emotional issues without recognizing what it is that is the processing speed in that picture. It's really hard to kind of just look at processing speed. That's why there aren't a lot of studies on it. It's really hard to just, like the closest we could get were these subtest scores where we can ask students to hold a pencil and be timed with paper. But real life, you're living it already. Slow processing speed. And also, quick processing speed. And I'm here to say that sometimes having a quick processing speed isn't good for some students. Yet let's go back to this profile for a moment and just talk about, for a student who might have superior processing skills, but then weaker skills in other cognitive areas, then they may work too quickly for their own good. And then we're looking at maybe issues relating to attention, which have to do with impulsivity. So we really have to be mindful of, what does the task require? What kinds of processing skills are needed for the child, and how can we assist in the process of learning so that learning remains joyful rather than frustrating, or joyful rather than anxiety producing, and then joyful instead of frustration with the adults who are around. So when I was saying that we don't often see processing skills, on their own, we often see them related to other cognitive abilities. So that could be a student who's on the autism spectrum. It could be a student with ADHD. I think that there are many questions parents have about, well, is it ADHD or is it slow processing speed? Is it slow processing speed or is it active working memory? So the next few slides, we're going to be talking about how to determine what that is. I'd like to leave you with that information. Slow processing speed can be related to a specific learning disability. So in terms of dyslexia, you may have heard the term fluency. Well, fluency is processing speed. And related to reading, it's how smoothly a child can read the words on the page. So there, fluency has a very specific meaning related to reading skills. But in life, we all have fluency. Remember when you first began to drive a car, you probably weren't quite that adept at driving the car and rolling down the window. Now, I'm old enough to say that when I learned how to drive, the windows were cranks. None of the windows were automatic quite yet. So that was a really big deal. And then cooking, when we made our first batch of baked goods, maybe brownies, we really had to look at the recipe. We weren't fluent at all. But after we've made brownies enough times, we barely have to look at what ingredients to pull out of the pantry. So processing speed skills are related to other kinds of motoric responses, and they're related to specific learning disabilities. I mentioned dyslexia, but it could be dysgraphia, it could be dyscalculia, it could be auditory processing, it could be visual processing. So there really is quite a bit of comorbidity or co-occurring difficulties that students are dealing with, and processing speed may not be the priority, but it's in the mix. And I already mentioned that students who are diagnosed with anxiety may have difficulty starting tasks. And so again, it looks like processing speed. And so that's definitely part of the mix.